Here's something nobody in the e-bike industry wants you to know. Most electric bikes don't die because they're badly made. They die because their owners had absolutely no idea how to take care of them. And the worst part is the things that kill e-bikes fastest are not dramatic crashes or manufacturing defects. They are small, silent, completely avoidable habits that riders repeat every single day without even realizing it. Do these maintenance steps regularly and your electric bike will genuinely last forever. Skip them, and you are basically flushing thousands of dollars straight down the drain. Why e-bikes die young? Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Walk into any e-bike forum online right now and you will find hundreds of frustrated riders asking the same question. Why did my e-bike die after only 2 or 3 years? And almost every single time the comments flood in with the same assumptions. Bad brand, cheap battery, poor manufacturing. And sure, sometimes those things are genuinely true. There are absolutely some brands out there producing equipment that belongs in a dumpster rather than on a road. We are not going to pretend otherwise, but here is what those forum posts almost never mention. The maintenance history of the bike, the electric bike industry, has exploded in the past decade in a way that genuinely nobody predicted. We are talking about a market that went from being a niche curiosity to a multi-billion-dollar global phenomenon almost overnight. And the problem with that kind of explosive growth is that millions of people are now buying e-bikes who have never owned anything more technically complex than a regular bicycle. They buy the bike, they charge it up, they ride it, they put it away. Repeat. No maintenance, no checks, no attention paid to the machine whatsoever until something breaks. And then they blame the brand. Now think about it this way. Imagine you bought a car back in 1980 and you never once changed the oil, never rotated the tires, never flushed the brake fluid, just drove it every day and parked it every night. How long do you think that car would last? Not very long at all. And yet people expect their e-bikes, which are genuinely complex electromechanical systems, to run indefinitely without a single moment of care or attention. That is not how machines work. That has never been how machines work. An electric bike has a battery management system, a motor with moving parts, a drivetrain that experiences significantly more stress than a regular bicycle drivetrain, hydraulic or mechanical brakes, sensors, firmware, display units, and electrical connectors that are all working together every single time you ride. Each one of those systems needs attention. Each one of those systems will degrade faster without proper care. The good news is that taking care of your e-bike is genuinely not that complicated. It does not require a mechanical engineering degree. It does not require an expensive workshop full of specialist tools. It just requires consistency and the right knowledge, which is exactly what we are going to give you today. The battery is everything all right. If there's one chapter in this entire video that you need to tattoo onto the back of your hand, it is this one. The battery is the single most expensive and most important component on your electric bike. A quality replacement battery can cost anywhere between $300 and $800 depending on your bike, and yet the way most riders treat their batteries is genuinely heartbreaking to witness. Let's talk about lithium-ion cells first, because understanding what they actually are helps you understand why they need to be treated a certain way. Your e-bike battery is made up of dozens of individual lithium-ion cells packed together into a battery pack. These cells are remarkable pieces of technology. They are energy dense, relatively lightweight, and capable of hundreds of charge cycles when treated correctly. The key phrase there being when treated correctly. Here is the #1 battery killer, and it is so simple it almost feels like a joke. Heat. Lithium-ion cells absolutely hate heat. Not just extreme heat either. Consistent moderate heat is enough to accelerate the degradation of your battery cells in a significant way. So what does that mean practically? It means you should never leave your e-bike parked in direct sunlight for extended periods. It means you should not charge your battery immediately after a long ride when the cells are already warm. Let it cool down for at least 30 minutes before you plug it in. And it absolutely means you should never store your e-bike in a hot garage during summer without any ventilation. Now here comes the one that most riders get completely wrong. Charging habits. Almost every e-bike owner charges their battery to 100% every single time. It feels logical. Full charge equals maximum range equals happy rider. Makes sense, right? Except lithium-ion chemistry does not agree with you on this one. Keeping lithium cells consistently at 100% charge creates something called oxidative stress on the cathode material inside each cell. Over time, this permanently reduces the capacity of your battery. You are essentially aging it faster every time you top it up to 100%. The sweet spot that battery engineers consistently recommend is keeping your charge level between 20% and 80% for daily use. Now look, if you need that full range for a long ride, then absolutely charge it to 100%. Nobody is saying you can never do it. Just do not make it your daily habit. On the other end of the spectrum, letting your battery drain completely to zero is equally destructive. Running lithium cells to complete depletion stresses the chemistry in the opposite direction and can cause individual cells within the pack to drop below their minimum voltage threshold. Do that enough times and you will start getting cells that simply will not recover. Your range drops, your power delivery becomes inconsistent, and eventually your battery management system starts throwing errors. Store your battery at around 50% charge if you are not riding for an extended period. That is the Goldilocks zone for lithium cell longevity. Not too full, not too empty. Just right. One more thing on batteries, and this one is crucial. Check your charging cable and connector regularly. Loose connections, frayed cables, and corroded terminals are not just bad for your battery, they are a genuine fire hazard. Give your charging port a visual inspection every few weeks. If you see any discoloration, any corrosion, or any physical damage to the connector, stop using that charger immediately and replace it. This is not an area to cut corners on. The motor maintenance nobody talks about here is where things get interesting. Ask most e-bike riders about motor maintenance, and you will get a blank stare followed by the word, huh. Motors are probably the most neglected component on the entire bike because most people assume they are sealed units that take care of themselves. And honestly, compared to everything else on the bike, they are relatively low maintenance. But relatively low maintenance does not mean zero maintenance. First, you need to understand what kind of motor you have because hub motors and mid-drive motors have different maintenance needs, and mixing them up is a mistake. Hub motors, which are the ones built directly into the front or rear wheel, are genuinely quite self-contained. The main things to watch for with a hub motor are heat buildup during long climbs, unusual sounds coming from the motor casing, and the condition of the axle nuts. Hub motors generate significant heat when pushed hard up steep gradients for extended periods. That heat has nowhere to go inside the sealed casing, and over time it degrades the internal windings and magnets. If you ride steep terrain regularly, give your hub motor a break. Walk the really brutal sections occasionally. Your motor will genuinely thank you for it. Mid-drive motors, which sit at the bottom bracket and drive the chain directly, are a different story. These motors interact with your drivetrain constantly, and they are far more sensitive to chain condition, cassette wear, and gear selection than hub motors. The golden rule for mid-drive motors is never change gears under heavy load. Always ease off the pedal assist and reduce your pedaling effort before clicking through the gears. Shifting under load on a mid-drive system puts enormous stress on the motor internals, the chain, and the cassette simultaneously. It is the mechanical equivalent of trying to change a car tire while driving on the highway. For both motor types, listen, seriously, just listen to your motor when you ride. Electric motors should run relatively quietly. A healthy motor produces a soft, consistent hum. Grinding sounds, clicking, rattling, or any kind of intermittent noise that was not there before are your motor trying to communicate with you. Do not ignore those sounds. Get the bike looked at by a qualified technician before a small issue becomes a very expensive one. Also, check your motor mounting bolts every couple of months. Vibration from regular riding can loosen these over time, and a motor that is not properly secured is a motor that is working harder than it needs to. Your drivetrain is screaming for help. Okay, real talk for a second. If you are currently riding an e-bike with a dry, rusty, squealing chain, and you have not cleaned or lubricated it in months, this chapter is an intervention. A well-meaning, genuinely caring intervention. From us to you. E-bike drivetrains wear out 2 to 3 times faster than regular bicycle drivetrains. Full stop. No debate. The reason is simple. The motor is adding continuous torque through the drivetrain on top of your own pedaling effort. That additional force accelerates wear on every component the chain touches. The chain itself, the cassette, the chainring, the derailleur pulleys, All of it wears faster than you probably expect. Chain lubrication is your first and most important line of defense. And this is where a lot of riders make a critical mistake. They either never lubricate the chain at all, or they drench it in the wrong lubricant and then wonder why their drivetrain is collecting every particle of dirt and grime within a 5-kilometer radius. The type of lubricant matters enormously. Wet lubricant for wet and muddy conditions. Dry lubricant for dry and dusty conditions. Using wet lubricant in dry conditions creates a sticky coating on your chain that acts like flypaper for dirt and grit. That grit then acts as an abrasive and grinds away at your chain and cassette teeth every single time you pedal. You are basically sandpapering your own drivetrain. Not ideal. Apply lubricant to a clean chain, let it penetrate for a few minutes, and then wipe off the excess with a clean cloth. That last step is one that almost everybody skips, and it is genuinely important. Excess lubricant on the outside of the chain just attracts more dirt. The lubricant needs to be inside the chain links where the metal surfaces actually contact each other. Now let's talk about chain stretch, which sounds dramatic but is actually just normal wear. As your chain wears, the internal links elongate slightly. This elongation causes the chain to no longer mesh perfectly with your cassette and chainring teeth. The teeth start to wear in a pattern that matches the stretched chain. And once that happens, replacing just the chain is not enough anymore. You have to replace the cassette and potentially the chainring as well, which suddenly turns a $20 chain replacement into a $150 drivetrain overhaul. Get yourself a chain wear indicator tool. They cost about $5. Check your chain every 300 to 400 miles. Replace it when the indicator shows it is at the replacement point. It is one of the highest return on investment habits in all of e-bike maintenance. And honestly, it takes about 30 seconds. Brake maintenance. That could save your life. We are going to be very direct in this chapter because this is not just about the longevity of your bike. This is about whether you can actually stop the thing when you need to. E-bikes are heavier than regular bicycles. Significantly heavier in most cases. A typical e-bike weighs somewhere between 40 and 70 pounds depending on the model. Add a rider and a backpack to that equation, and you are asking your brakes to manage a substantial amount of momentum every single time you need to slow down or stop. Brakes that are not maintained on a regular bicycle are annoying. Brakes that are not maintained on an e-bike traveling at 28 miles per hour on a busy road are a completely different category of problem. Most modern e-bikes come with hydraulic disc brakes, and these are genuinely excellent pieces of equipment when properly maintained. The fluid inside a hydraulic brake system is hygroscopic, which is a fancy way of saying it absorbs moisture from the air over time. As the fluid absorbs moisture, its boiling point drops. On long descents where you are applying the brakes for extended periods, the fluid can actually heat up enough to cause brake fade, which is that terrifying moment where you squeeze the lever and feel very little happening. Hydraulic brake fluid should be replaced approximately every 1 to 2 years depending on how much you ride. Brake pads are the other critical item. Check them regularly. Most brake pads have a wear indicator line. When the pad material wears down to that line, they need to be replaced immediately. Riding on worn pads damages your brake rotors, which are significantly more expensive to replace than pads. This is the exact same logic as the chain wear situation. A small amount of prevention saves a large amount of money. Here's the piece of brake maintenance that almost nobody in the e-bike world talks about: the motor inhibitor system. Many e-bikes have sensors in the brake levers that cut motor power the moment you squeeze the brakes. This is a safety system, but these sensors can fall out of calibration over time, which means there can be a tiny delay between you squeezing the brake lever and the motor actually cutting off. Have your motor inhibitors checked and calibrated during your annual service. At higher speeds, that fraction of a second makes a genuine difference. The software and display, nobody updates. This one is for the tech people in the room, and also for the people who still have their phone running software from 2019. You know who you are. Your e-bike is not just a mechanical device, it is a computer on wheels. The motor controller, the battery management system, and the display unit all run firmware. And just like the software on your phone or laptop, that firmware gets updated by manufacturers to fix bugs, improve efficiency, optimize battery management algorithms, and sometimes add entirely new features. Most e-bike riders never update their firmware, ever. Not once after the initial purchase. And this is a genuine missed opportunity. Some of the improvements manufacturers push through firmware updates are significant. Battery protection algorithms that extend cell life. Motor efficiency improvements that increase range. Error detection systems that can warn you about developing problems before they become serious failures. Check your manufacturer's app or website every few months for available firmware updates. The process is usually straightforward and takes less than 15 minutes. Treat it the same way you treat updating your phone. It is just basic digital hygiene. The display unit also needs occasional attention. Check that all the assist level readings are accurate. Check that your speed readings make sense for how fast you are actually moving. A display showing obviously incorrect data is often a sign of a sensor issue, either a speed sensor that has shifted position relative to the wheel magnet or a torque sensor that needs calibration. These are small adjustments that take minutes to fix when caught early, but can cause confusing and frustrating riding experiences if left alone. Also, and we cannot believe this still needs to be said in the current year, protect your display from water ingress. Most e-bike displays have a water resistance rating, but that does not mean they are waterproof. If you regularly ride in rain, consider a simple display cover. Water getting behind the display screen causes corrosion on the electrical contacts that connects everything together. Once that happens, the repair bill gets uncomfortable very quickly. Cleaning, you're probably doing it wrong, right? Cleaning, everyone thinks they know how to clean a bike. Grab a hose, blast it with water, job done, brilliant. Except no, absolutely not. Put the pressure washer down and step away. Pressure washers are one of the most common causes of premature e-bike component failure, and it is not even close. The problem is not the water itself, it is the pressure. Bearings are sealed with grease and rubber seals that keep water and contamination out. A pressure washer forces water past those seals with enough force to displace the grease inside the bearing. Once that grease is gone, the bearing runs dry, overheats, and fails. And we are talking about bottom bracket bearings, wheel hub bearings, headset bearings, and suspension pivot bearings if your bike has them. All of which cost money to replace and none of which you should be blasting with high pressure water. The correct way to clean an e-bike is with a bucket of warm soapy water, a soft brush, a couple of clean cloths, and a little bit of patience. Work from top to bottom. Clean the frame first, then the drivetrain, then the wheels. Use a dedicated degreaser on the chain and cassette, but keep it away from your brake rotors. Even a tiny amount of degreaser contamination on a brake rotor transfers to the brake pads and significantly reduces braking performance. This is actually dangerous and not just a maintenance inconvenience. After washing, dry the bike thoroughly. Pay special attention to the areas around electrical connectors, the charging port, and the display. These are the points where moisture can cause the most damage if left to sit. A quick blast with a can of compressed air into the connector housings is genuinely useful here. The post-ride wipe-down habit is something that professional cycling teams have done forever, and it is just as relevant for e-bike owners. After each ride, before you put the bike away, spend 2 minutes wiping down the frame and drivetrain with a clean cloth. Remove the dirt and moisture before it has a chance to get comfortable. This single habit, 2 minutes per ride, will add years to the life of your components. 2 minutes. You spend longer than that looking for the TV remote. Seasonal storage. The silent killer winter is coming, or summer, depending on where you were reading this. Either way, extended periods of storage are one of the most dangerous things that can happen to an e-bike when handled incorrectly. Let's talk about the battery first, because we are apparently never done talking about the battery. This is because it is that important. If you are storing your e-bike for more than 2 weeks, remove the battery from the bike and store it separately indoors. The target storage charge is 50%. Not 100%, not 0%, 50%. Set a reminder on your phone to check the battery charge level every 4 to 6 weeks during storage and top it back up to 50% if it has dropped below 30. Temperature matters enormously during storage. Lithium-ion batteries, stored in freezing temperatures, experience accelerated capacity loss. They do not like the cold any more than they like the heat. Store your battery somewhere that stays above 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 0 degrees Celsius at all times. A climate-controlled room indoors is ideal. Your unheated garage in January is not. Tire pressure is another storage consideration that almost nobody thinks about. Tires lose pressure slowly over time, even without any punctures. An e-bike sitting on flat or severely underinflated tires for months develops flat spots in the tire casing that affect the way the tire handles and can damage the tire structure permanently. Check and inflate your tires to the recommended pressure before putting the bike into storage. Before storing for winter, give the bike a thorough clean and inspection. Lubricate the chain fresh. Check all the bolts. Inspect the cables. Apply a light protective spray to any exposed metal surfaces to prevent corrosion from developing while the bike sits. Coming back to a well-prepared stored bike in spring feels genuinely wonderful. Coming back to a neglected one is considerably less enjoyable. Your simple weekly and monthly maintenance schedule. All right, we have covered a lot of ground today, and we recognize that reading through all of this can feel slightly overwhelming. So let's bring it all together into a practical schedule that any rider can actually stick to. No excuses. No specialist tools required for most of it. Just consistent attention. Every single ride, before you go, do a quick visual check. Tires look properly inflated. Brakes feel firm when you squeeze them. Any unusual sounds when you spin the wheels. Nothing loose or rattling. This takes 60 seconds, and it is the difference between catching a problem early and finding out about it at the worst possible moment. Every week, check your tire pressure with an actual gauge and inflate to the recommended level. Inspect your brake pads for wear. Wipe down the chain and check whether it needs lubrication. Clean any obvious dirt off the frame and drivetrain. Check your battery charge level and make sure you are not consistently sitting at 100%. Every month, do a full chain clean and lubrication. Check chain wear with your indicator tool. Inspect all the electrical connectors for corrosion or damage. Check the motor mounting bolts for tightness. Clean your brake rotors with isopropyl alcohol and a clean cloth. Check your display is reading accurately. Look over your brake and gear cables for any fraying or kinking. Every 6 months, bleed your hydraulic brakes if you ride frequently or in wet conditions. Check bearing play in your wheels, headset, and bottom bracket by gently rocking the components and feeling for any looseness. Check your brake pad thickness carefully. Check firmware for updates from your manufacturer. Every year, book a full professional service. Yes, even if everything feels fine. A trained technician can catch developing problems that are invisible to the untrained eye. They can check your motor internals, properly calibrate your sensors, assess your battery health using diagnostic tools, and give you a complete picture of where your bike actually stands. Think of it like a car service or a medical checkup. You do not wait until something goes catastrophically wrong before you show up. The riders who follow a schedule like this are the riders who are still on the same bike 10 years later talking about how reliable it is. The riders who skip everything are the ones posting in forums 2 years from now asking why their battery only lasts 20 minutes and their motor sounds like a bag of gravel. Do not be the bag of gravel person. And there you have it. Everything you need to keep your electric bike running for years and years and years. None of this is complicated. None of this requires you to be a mechanical genius. It just requires you to actually do it on a regular basis. The electric bike market is incredible right now. The technology is advancing faster than at any point in the history of personal transportation. But none of that technology matters if you ride a fantastic machine into an early grave through pure neglect. Take care of your e-bike, and your e-bike will take care of you. If this video helped you out, hit that like button and subscribe because we have got a lot more of this coming. Drop a comment below and tell us the one maintenance task you know you have been avoiding. We will not judge you much. See you in the next one.